Okay, looking at our do now, it says that we put $200 in the bank in return for storing our money in the bank. For a year, the bank gives you 3% of the money you stored in the bank. How much money will the bank give you? So here we see that percent of the money we stored in the bank. So this is Q is going to be equal to the percent of the whole. The whole is of the money we stored in the bank, which is $200. And this is 3%, 0.03. So our quantity is going to be equal to 200 times 0.03, which is going to be $6. So if we're storing my money in the bank, they're going to give me $6. And what you've actually explored is the concept of interest, which is our aim for today. So let's flip on over and look at our aim. Today's aim, Kipsters will be able to solve simple interest problems. So the concept of interest is really this idea that anybody who borrows money or lets somebody borrow money, it's a service, and so they want to get themselves paid for that service. And generally, there are two factors that you put into like how much you're going to charge somebody for the service of borrowing money, and generally it's how long did they borrow my money and how much did they borrow. And so those are the two things that we really think about. So here we have this problem over here. It says Larry invests $100 in a savings plan. The plan pays 4.5% interest each year on a $100 account balance. So this is going to be, we'll change this to 4.5%. And it says to use Q is equal to percent times whole to determine how much money will Larry earn in interest each year. So again, we're looking at a percent of the money that he put in. So that's a percent of the 100. This is just like the do now problem. Q is equal to percent times whole. And this is 0.045 times 100, which we're going to get the quantity is equal to $4.50. Now, so after 1 year, he has earned $4.50. Go ahead and determine how much would he earn after 2 years and 3 years and 4 years and so on. Go ahead and fill out this chart. So as we fill out this chart, after 2 years, well, if it's each year, $4.50 each year, this is going to be $9. This would be $13.50. This would be $18 and $22.50. And so what we can see here is that actually this is the way that most of you probably figured that out is you said, well, it's $4.50 per year. So in a way, you wrote the equation y is equal to 4.5 times x, which shows that this is a proportional relationship. And maybe you probably thought about it as interest is equal to 4.5 times t. So write an equation to represent how much interest he will earn after t years. Well, that's the equation that we just wrote. I is equal to 4.5 times t. And we want to generalize the equation for interest. So there were, coming up here, if we look at this, really what we did is we said the interest, we kind of started with Q is equal to percent times whole, and then we multiplied it times the number of years. So when we write this formula, we're going to put in I is equal to P times R times T. And so let me go ahead and describe what those different things are. I is obviously interest. P is what we call principal. Not like a principal of the school, but principal. So when we talk about principal, that's the amount of money that is invested or borrowed when we run into problems like these. This is the interest rate. That's the percentage per year, and T is time. And one thing to know about time is that it's always per year. So we're always talking about a number of years here. So if we're ever given something other than years, then we have to actually convert it to years. And we're going to see a problem like that here in a second. So let's use this concept here. We're going to use the equation. Interest is equal to principal times rate times time. And it says find the balance of the savings account at 10 years. The earned interest, so this is T. Each year is 7.5%, so this is my interest rate. And the principal is $500. So the interest is equal to 500 times 0.075 times T, which is 10 years. And when we do this, this is really just a bunch of multiplication. You can put this all in the calculator. We should get $375. Now, let's be careful here. We look at this question, it says to find the balance of the savings account. So when you go back to the bank, you're not just going to have the $375 there, you're going to have your principal sitting there as well, however much you gave to the bank in the first place. So when this question happens, when we want to find the balance, so balance is equal to interest plus principal, this will be 375 plus 500 is equal to 875. And so that's just one thing that we have to be careful here, is to always check, hey, is this asking me for just the interest, or is this asking me for the balance at the end? All right. A $1,000 savings bond earns simple interest at a rate of 3% per year. The interest is paid at the end of every month. How much interest will the bond have earned after 3 months? So looking at this one, we identify here, this is my principal. A bond is just a way to invest money or let somebody borrow money. 3% each year, this is our interest rate. And our time here is 3 months. Now, remember, time is always supposed to be in years. So we have to figure out for ourselves really quickly, T is equal to 3 months out of 12, which is going to be equal to 0.25. Now that we know that, again, the 3 out of 12 comes from the idea that that's 3 months out of 12 months of the year. So that's 0.25, 25% of a year. Now that we know that, please go ahead and fill in your equation. Interest is equal to principal times rate times time. And go ahead and find the value for our savings bond here. All right, so our principal was 1,000 times our rate 0.03 times our time 0.25. When I do this and I calculate this out, this is going to give me 30 times 0.25, which is going to give me $7.5. So in 3 months' time, I will have earned $7.5. How much interest? That's the question there asked me for the interest. Now, not all interest problems ask us to find the interest. Sometimes we're given different information and we need to solve. So Ms. Williams wants to know how long it would take. So I want to know how long. That's probably thinking about time. Investment, so that's how much I'm putting in. That's my principal. to earn $200 in interest. This is I, and my rate is 6.5%. So coming down, looking at my equation, I is equal to principal times rate times time. And I'm starting to plug in the information I know. I can see here I don't know t. That's what I'm solving for. My rate is 0.065. My principal investment was $450. And I want to earn $200 in interest, so that's going to go in for I. So here's when we got to think about, okay, how would I solve this? Well, I can see here that I can multiply these two things. And when I do that, that's going to give me 200 is equal to 29.25 times t. And so now we have a single step equation. This is just like a ton of equations that we've solved already. And so in order to solve this, we need to divide both sides by 29.25. And when I put that into the calculator, 200 divided by 29.25, I'm going to get approximately, so this is going to be a rounded, that t is equal to about 6.8 years. Okay, so those are the general problems, and so I'm going to actually release you kind of on the other side to look at a couple of these problems. We're going to look at this one just a little bit before you get started, and then I'm going to have you finish this one and then go ahead and do the next one on your own. So looking at this one, it says to write an equation for the amount of simple interest earned. And what we see here is that it tells me a semi-annual interest rate. So all of our interest rates have been per year, and that's what we really need to have here. So what we want to think about here is if the interest is for 6 months is 2%, then what would that be for 1 year? So 1 year, so 6 months times 2, this is going to tell me my interest rate is actually 4% for the entire year. So interest is equal to P times R times T. Now go ahead and plug in the information and solve for the amount of interest in this problem. So on this we have a $600 investment. That's $600. Our rate we found was for the year is 0.04, and our time in years is 1.5. When we start multiplying this out, this is going to give me 24 times 1.5, which is going to give me $36. And finally, this one I want you to go ahead and set up and do on your own, and then we'll check back in when you're done. So interest is equal to principal times rate times time. We're going to plug in the information. We have a loan, that's our principal. That's how much was borrowed. The interest rate 4 1/4, so that's 4.25%. 2 times is try that again, is 0.0425 times time. How much time? Okay, so I don't know how much time. And the interest is $127.50. So I want to go ahead and calculate this out. I'm going to use a calculator to go ahead and multiply 1,500 times 0.0425. And I'm going to get $63.75 times t is equal to 127.50. Then I need to divide by 63.75. 63.75. This cancels out, leaving me with t is equal to 2 years. Cool. And let's flip on over to the other side really quickly. And I'm going to kind of help guide you through this one a little bit more step by step. It says Mr. Rodriguez invests $2,000 in a savings plan. The savings account pays an annual interest rate of 0.5% on the amount he put in at the end of each year. How much will Mr. Rodriguez earn if he leaves his money in the savings plan for 10 years? So first one's just asking you to figure out what the interest will be after 10 years. You can go ahead and use your equation, solve that one, and then we'll check back in. So our equation here, I is equal to principal times rate times time. Investing, we're letting somebody else borrow $2,000. Rate is 0.5, so that's 0.005. Very low interest rate. Times time is 10 years. We can throw that into the calculator. And that's going to give me that the interest is equal to 100. All right, so $100. And the question is, how much money will the savings plan have at the end of 10 years? So remember, at the end of 10 years, your interest or your balance is going to be equal to the interest plus the principal. So that's the $100 plus the $2,000 that we originally invested. So our total balance is $2,100. All right, create and label a graph below in the coordinate plane that shows the relationship between time and the amount of interest earned after 10 years. All right, so let's go ahead and come down here. Let's put some points in here. I'm going to add actually one down here. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Determine for me how much interest would be earned after each time. So obviously after 0 years you're going to have earned 0 interest. That's an important point, especially when we start to look at this question over here about whether it's proportional or not. Remember, if it's to be proportional, it has to go through 0, 0. After 1 year, he earns $10, which means after 2 years it's 20 and 30 and 40 and so on. So is this relationship proportional? Is it going to be the same thing, the same constant proportionality throughout? And if we think about it in terms of equation-wise, interest is equal to 2,000 times 0.005 times t. This is a proportional relationship. I is equal to 10t. So we have that same constant of proportionality, 10, all the way throughout. Is this relationship proportional? Yes. And we know that because as we graph this, 1 is going to be halfway between 10 to 20, 3, 30, 4, 40. We see that it is a straight line through the origin. So remember, that was our kind of our graphical way, straight line. Through 0, 0. Explain what the points 0, 0 mean and the points 1, 10. So think through that. What does it mean? 0t, I is 0. Well, that means 0 interest after 0 years. And this one's a particularly important point because this is our constant of proportionality. So we also know that not only does this mean 1 year is $10. But it means that $10 is earned not just in 1 year, but each year. And that's only, we know that's each year because this is a proportional relationship. All right, so that's the work for today. Go ahead and flip on over to your alone time and get your work done.